Views of Switzerland and Savoie in 1863 by William England, a forgotten genius. In 1863, when he toured the Alps for the first time, William England was one of the world's most highly regarded and celebrated photographers. Today his name has sadly been almost forgotten. But his legacy is a remarkable stereoscopic record of the Alps at the end of the Little Ice Age, before the impact of global warming, mass tourism and urbanization. His widely sold stereo views of the mighty glaciers, the picturesque waterfalls and the dramatic peaks were highly popular tourist souvenirs in the mid-19th century and helped popularize the Alps as a tourist destination. So who was William England? This is a rare self-portrait in the dungeon at Château-Chillon. Born in 1830, he joined the London Stereoscopic Company at its formation in 1854. By the late 1850s, this company had grown to be probably the largest photographic enterprise in the world, and England was its principal photographer. He famously toured the USA and Canada in 1859 and 1860, bringing back the first photographic images of North America to be widely seen in Europe. His view of Blondin crossing the Niagara Falls on a tightrope is claimed to have been the world's record-selling stereo view, with over 100,000 copies sold. In 1861 he turned his lens on Paris, capturing everyday life on the busy streets. These early instantaneous views were remarkable in an era when photographic exposure times were generally several minutes. England was in charge of photographing the London International Exhibition of 1862, and he documented the life of the Prince of Wales at home in Sandringham Palace. Capitalising on his excellent reputation, in 1863 he went solo. His first independent commission was to photograph the Alps on behalf of the Alpine Club. Perhaps he planned his itinerary in Geneva, on the balcony of the Hotel Berg. A tour of over 800 kilometres through the Alps in 1863 was a major logistical challenge. A railway along Lake Geneva and up the Rhone Valley had just opened in 1861, but the rest of the journey would have been on lake steamers, in stage coaches, char-à-banc, by mule, or on foot. The roads were very poor. The journey from Geneva to Chamonix took 10 hours, and his photographic equipment was very heavy and very fragile. It was a far cry from the convenience of our digital age. Starting out in Geneva, England recorded Market Day in this prosperous city. The watermills that he saw on the Rhone are now long gone. In Sallanches, England took his first panorama of Mont Blanc dominating the skyline. And he captured the old town and its bridge, with the Aiguille de Varens behind. He entered its pretty Baroque church and recorded its neoclassical interior. He often used his French wife Rosalie to provide foreground interest, depth and scale, as in this view of the Shed waterfall. Servos provided another striking view of Mont Blanc, this one a rare tinted view. He arrived in the Chamonix Valley at the village of Les Ouches, and he must have been amazed by the sight of the Glacière des Bossons tumbling right down to the valley floor, with its gleaming séracs towering above the surrounding pine forest. Next stop was the picturesque Cascade des Pèlerins. Chamonix was already a prosperous, expanding town and a recognised tourist destination. William England was likely amused to stay at his namesake hotel, the Hotel d'Angleterre, According to the Murray Guidebook, more comfort will be found there than in almost any other inn out of England. Chamonix was still a pastoral community. In the census of 1858, over 90% of the population recorded their profession as laboureur, meaning peasant farmer. The climb to Montanvert was rewarded with a spectacular view of Les Dreux, and his party ventured forth onto the famous Mer de Glace. This glacier still reached down to the valley floor, where it was called the Glacier des Bois, as can be seen in this view from Les Pras. A celebrated tourist attraction was the Arveiron River, bursting forth from an icy grotto in the tail of the glacier. Continuing up the valley, England passed Argentière, where again the glacier still menaced the village. The mule road to Martigny passed through the tunnel de la Tête Noire, and the main road actually continued to pass through this tunnel right up until 1965. The dramatic Gorge du Triomphe near Martigny was already a popular tourist attraction. The beautiful village of Zermatt was far less developed than Chamonix, with the formidable and still virgin Matterhorn dominating the skyline. England's tour took in the Swiss highlights as suggested by guidebooks such as Murray and Baedeker. But England's imagery was not all about landscape. After the spectacular falls at Lauterbrunnen, England documented the cutting of ice for refrigeration purposes at Grindelwald. And his view of harvesters in the Tarentaise is another example of a lost profession that he recorded, but as always, with an eye for the picturesque. In 1865 he returned to the Alps and crossed the Grand St. Bernard Pass, recording for posterity the dogs and the monks in front of the hospice. Descending into the Aosta Valley, he turned towards Courmayeur, and climbing to the Hermitage, he captured Mont Blanc from the Italian side. William England returned at least 6 times to Mont Blanc and the valley of Chamonix. In the 1860s and 70s, the commercial success of his alpine views helped cement the reputation of Chamonix as a tourist destination. The Alpine Club Journal of 1865 stated that Mr. England's photographs of the Alps were the best of all, for his pictures excel both in perfection of workmanship and in artistic grouping. And by 1880, Photographic News reported that England was probably the largest continental publisher of European views. But as stereoscopic views fell out of fashion, so was William England sadly forgotten. Let us return him to his rightful place at the forefront of the pantheon of Victorian photographers. William England, we do remember you.